Hey everyone, in today's episode, I interview Andrea Fry. She's a launch strategist and copywriter, and she runs the Creative Copy Club membership. We had an amazing conversation in how you can utilize some great principles of connecting with your client to write copy that actually resonates with them, how to not feel salesy when you're writing copy and not to feel like you need to be pushy. There's so many ways that you can actually genuinely connect with your clients. And Andrea gave us a lot of strategies for that. We also talked about just managing, being a mom of three, a military spouse, and running her amazing business and membership. We talked a little bit about AI into the world of copywriting and a lot into, again, how to connect with your clients in a way that the copy is going to resonate with them and that they're going to feel like they're buying from somebody that they like and know and trust. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast, where we bridge the gap between the creativity you love and the CEO mindset you need. I'm your host, Nada Salvatore, wedding photographer and business educator. Find full show notes and resources at accidentalceopod.com. Let's get into today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. I am your host, Nada Salvatore, and today I have Andrea Fry with me. She's a launch strategist and copywriter, and she runs the Creative Copy Club membership. Welcome, Andrea.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about just where you are and what kind of services that you offer, and then we're going to backtrack into your story a little bit after that.
Yeah, awesome. So I am, like she said, Andrea Fry. I'm a conversion copywriter. I focus on launch strategy now, but I'm also a military wife. I'm a mom of three small kids. My kids are 2, 4, and 6. So all fun and chaos all the time over here. And we move a lot, which we'll kind of get into. That's part of my story. So right now I live in Michigan, and that's actually where I'm from. I was born and raised here. We are super thankful to have had a military move that finally put us back to our hometown. So that's where I'm coming from today.
Oh, that's nice. It's not often that people get to get back to,
Yeah.
their city when they're in the military. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you ended up as the CEO of this awesome business that you have.
Yeah. So I really wanted to chat with you because your title of the Accidental CEO is completely applicable to my story. So I am actually a physician assistant by training. So I have my master's degree in medical science, and I had practiced for almost 10 years by the time that COVID rolled around. And not to really bring that up, but that was actually a pivotal moment. It just so happened to coincide with when my family was restationed for the military to Washington State. So pretty much as far away from Michigan as you can possibly get in the United States. And we were there and we just moved. We didn't know anybody. We had no childcare. I was just starting the job hunting process when everything kind of shut down. And at that point, my husband and I really kind of talked about, like, what are our goals for our family? What do we really want? And I had always wanted to stay home with kids, but I also really loved working. So it was one of those things where I was kind of afraid to give up that working kind of identity and that piece of me, because as much as I love being home with kids, I love connecting with people, talking with adults, and helping people. That's why I went into medicine. So long story short, we decided to see how it went with me staying home, especially because in those early days, we just didn't really know what was going on. And we didn't want, my husband's military, so we didn't want two of us to be considered essential workers and be gone, and our kids, in daycare, a place where we had no backup, no family, no one could help us. So I stayed home. I kind of dabbled in network marketing a little bit just to kind of keep that interaction with people and have something else to do. It's not that I don't love hanging out with little kids all day, but at the time my kids were 2 and 8 months. So they're not exactly conversationalists at that age. And there's just a lot of neediness, which comes with the territory, but it can be draining. So I really wanted to keep that aspect of connecting with people, talking to other people about things besides diapers and baby stuff. So I started in network marketing, and we'll kind of probably dig into this a little bit more later, but it's not a secret that the industry doesn't have a great reputation. And I found myself really analyzing that. So I also have a degree in brain behavior and cognitive science, which is my undergrad bachelor's degree. And I was noticing a lot of the things that I had learned were not really being done the way that the human brain works in like the sales world specifically. So I dug into a lot more of sales psychology, and then I realized copywriting was actually pretty much sales psychology on steroids. So
Yeah.
I've always loved to write. And I honestly am not, I don't consider myself a creative writer. So I'm not very good at making up stories and fiction, but I really like following rules. And I found out copywriting was basically rules, sets of rules, formulas, templates, all that kind of stuff. And then you can learn how to strategically break the rules. And that was just so fun for me. So long winding road, but I ended up then into copywriting. And then over the past couple of years, I've focused in on specifically launch copywriting. So sales pages, email marketing campaigns, and that kind of thing.
I love that. What are some of the things that you noticed that you said that we're not kind of following how things should go when you're trying to market and sale? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I have to just say, no hate on the industry. I have some really great friends in direct sales network marketing, and I'm not one of those like anti MLM people, but I am anti the way that they're taught to make sales. And so basically, what I was finding, a lot of these trainings and sales trainings were just telling you to like push, 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 push. And if someone says no, like they don't really mean no, they mean not right now, and keep pushing and keep trying and ask them again and get in everyone's face. And I just couldn't get aligned with that. Like I know I don't like when people talk to me that way. Nothing turns me off faster than having somebody be pushy to me and I'm running the other way. And so I was thinking like, why is this what everyone says is the right way to make sales? How, like, is this actually working for people? Because I can't even do that. And so, not to get super nerdy, but like brain psychology and all of that, like you have to really think about what motivates people. And having somebody slamming something in your face is not motivating. It does the exact opposite.
Do not shy away from being nerdy today. I love nerdy. Let's be nerdy. I'm good with that. I come from healthcare too, so
Oh, cool.
and study some psychology. I love nerdy. Don't you worry. So let's talk a little bit about some of the core principles that you follow on your copywriting that does not come off as pushy or salesy. Salesy. Oh my gosh.
Salesy. It's okay.
Does not come off as pushy or sales.
Technically, I will say, on the nerdy aspect, salesy is, at least according to Grammarly and all of my spell checks, is not actually a word, but I use it all the time. It's always like wrong, incorrect. I'm like, no, I'm saying that on purpose. So I do everything. I created this framework called the Connect and Convert framework. And basically everything that I do, I run through that framework. So actually, I have it as my free guide that I just give out as widely as I can because I want everybody to learn these principles. But the main foundation is you need to connect with people before you can sell to them and convert them into buyers. The thing that drew me to healthcare was I wanted to help people. I think that's pretty universal for people who go into healthcare. And so I've always had that need and that desire to help people. And that's when I realized that the same things apply to sales. So if your product, your service, your offering truly helps somebody, you're going to connect with people by showing them you know how they feel. We never use pain points to exploit them, to make them feel bad. I really hate that whole like find their pain points and just dig in. I can't stand that. But when you know their pain points, you know how you can help them. And that way you can create products, you can create freebies, you can create all sorts of things that actually are going to help people. So all of those things are going to help with the connection piece. So knowing your audience, I know we always think we have to know, the name of our target, our avatar and what her Starbucks order is and how many kids she has. And unless you're a mom blogger who's into coffee, like that doesn't actually matter as much as knowing the things that keep her up at night, knowing the things that she wishes could be better, could be easier, and kind of using that piece to connect with her because it's really hard to sell something to somebody if you have nothing in common with them. I know we've all heard the know, like, and trust. So we buy from people we know, like, and trust. Well, in order to know somebody and to like them, you have to connect with them. So I really talk a lot about connecting with your audience, building trust, nurturing them with actual value, not just having, sales sequences that are evergreen that are not helpful and just pushing your stuff. And then when you do all of those things, when you've built that connection foundation, then we move into converting. So it gets into the little more nitty gritty of like making sure everything we write grabs their attention in an authentic way because it's something they can relate to, offering solutions to their problems, which usually are our products or services, and then showing kind of that transformation. We focus more on benefits instead of just features, and then always including strong calls to action. That's kind of the more technical part, but those are the things that are then going to convert your audience who you've already connected with into buyers and fans too.
Yeah, that's a great framework. I really like the idea of identifying the pain points, but not to exploit them. And, you really have to make sure that you are creating a very specific product for that client in order to connect. So, because you know the pain points, you can create a more specific solution for them. But again, not to make them feel bad about it. Oh my gosh, and then I have to get this because I'm miserable. So I love that. What do you think is a good balance of nurturing in sales in your copy? Is there like a percentage? Do you talk about that with your clients at all?
I typically focus on like an 80-20 rule. So the 80 is the value, the connection, and then the 20% is the sales. Because here's the other thing. Everything that I've talked about can actually go too far in the other direction where people then become afraid to sell. They're like, well, I'm getting to know people, I'm connecting. I don't want them to think that I've just been setting them up for a sale. But I try to remind people, you're a business owner. You only have a business if you make sales. So we have to do that. But when we're actually connecting with people and trying to help them, then that selling part becomes a little bit easier. So I think it's really about like shifting their perspective on sales. And then when it comes to the actual breakdown of their percentage, I'd say still in anything we do, 80% of it should be that nurturing, the value, the helping, 20% sales. But when you're doing sales, it can be either very clear, like I said, with strong calls to action, click this link, check this freebie out, whatever. But it doesn't always have to be like that. So for example, in my emails, sometimes I will actually just write an entire email that sells nothing. And then at the end, I have at the bottom like a pre-formatted block and I say helpful links or helpful resources, I think is what it says now. And then there I have some affiliate links, some of my own products, links to my membership. And my thought is, if somebody needs that stuff, now they know where to find it. I could be making sales in an email, but that's not the focus. But I also, in order to help people, want them to know that I sell stuff and be able to find it. So that's another way that you can kind of subtly make sales without having to be like, and by the way, buy this thing. This is a big deal. It just kind of people get to know you. They get to know your style. They get to know your emails. And then they know that that box is there. So when they're ready for something, they can scroll to the bottom and check out what you've got.
Yeah. And by the way, Andrea has a link to a very cool typewriter slash keyboard on her Instagram.
It is
That is
sitting right
just
here.
the cutest thing. It looks like you're typing into an old time typewriter.
And it lights up too. It's
Yeah, I was
so
gonna say it
fun.
lights up, so super cute. Go check it out. So how do you think your background in like the brain, behavior, and cognitive science influence your copywriting and sales strategies?
Yeah. So, kind of funny story about that is when I went for that degree, I only was planning to get into PA school. So, I needed any kind of undergrad degree. It didn't really matter. I had to get my science credits in and I had to have a degree. So, I was like, actually at the time had no idea it was going to help me as a copywriter. Obviously, I wasn't a copywriter in undergrad. But the thing about it was when I made that decision, I said, well, I want to learn something that I'm actually really interested in because at the end of the day, I'm going to become a PA. So I would love to have a background in something that I just find genuinely fascinating. And so now looking back, I'm so glad I did that because it turns out that's what I'm doing now for my actual career. So the principles of, just knowing how the brain works, knowing we've studied a lot of motivation, so what motivates your behaviors and things like that. And so those are all principles that I have learned how to weave into copywriting, because like we said, you don't really want people to be motivated by fear. If you have buyers that are coming to you because they're afraid that something bad's going to happen to them if they don't buy your thing, like those aren't the kind of people, at least those aren't the people that I want to be. I want people that actually want me to help them. And so that sort of understanding the motivation behind how the brain works helps me to write that and translate that into copy that is not aggressive and pushy and salesy.
Tell us a little bit more about your membership program. I know you have a membership, the Creative Copy Club. What is unique about your membership, and how do you bring that teaching and those principles into writing better copy?
Yeah. So I have, like you said, the Creative Copy Club. That was basically, it's evolved so much over the past year, but I started out just thinking it was going to be a template membership. So we have templates all over the place. People would always ask me, I need help with a sales page. I wish I could just have a template. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll make a membership. We're going to have templates and that's it. And then I realized, okay, it's just like I've been talking about this whole time. I'm giving people what they asked for, but I wasn't able to actually help them with what they were struggling with, which was, you can fill out a template, but if you don't understand why the template's set up that way, then you're kind of not learning anything. You're just using a template over and over. So I added in workshops. So now we do monthly workshops where I really dig into different principles. Sometimes we do like a very specific thing, like a whole workshop on how to write good headlines. Sometimes it's more broad, like sales page strategy, things like that. And then I have just implemented, we always do a Q&A call once a month, but I've just implemented a copy review aspect to that too. So members who are in the club and who are involved, there's a little bit of an application process to get your copy reviewed if you're a member. But those people who are basically engaged and committed to learning and understanding what's going on, I will then real time review their copy so that they can understand, when I look at it, what I see as a copywriter and how we can improve their messaging. And those, I've been doing copy reviews now for almost a year, and those are the most helpful thing. And I think that's what really sets us apart, because there's something to be said for learning and understanding the principles. But then when you go and apply them and you're just like, I don't know, did I do this? Is this right? Does this look good? I don't know. Having somebody come in with that expert background and actually go line by line and tell you like, yeah, this is good, but here's how we can make it better and show you really the tangible examples of how to fix things is so helpful. And that's gotten the most rave reviews. So I'm really excited to keep on doing that too.
That's fun. Yeah, it's always good when you get to actually do it on the spot and help people understand it. It clicks for one person, is going to click for somebody else when they're watching it happen. So I like that you add that to the membership. I'm sure they're getting tons of value from that.
They are. And that what I also encourage people to do is to just watch the calls, even if they don't have copy ready, come to the calls and listen, because you learn so much from just listening, watching, listening to my rationale of why I would change this or how to improve things, so that even the people who aren't there with a piece of copy can walk away with so much, so many golden nuggets. And we record all the copy reviews so people can go back through the archives at any point. And I do that because I don't want the people whose copy I'm reviewing to be scribbling notes furiously and not understanding and listening to what I'm saying. So I just tell them, don't worry, we've got a replay. I always mark it out by their names, like in the chapters, so they don't have to watch the whole, if it's an hour, they don't have to watch the whole thing. But they can then be engaged and focused on understanding and going back and forth and asking those follow-up questions, instead of later looking at their notes and thinking like, what was she talking about here? I don't know. We'll just forget it.
What do you think has helped your membership grow the most?
I honestly think it is, I love this, practicing what I preach, connecting with people before I even had the membership. So before I even started it, I had a pretty engaged email list. And also I started a free Facebook group. It's called Creative Copywriting for Entrepreneurs, which anyone's welcome to type that in their Facebook search bar and come join us. But I really focused on that, especially in the beginning, and nurturing all of those people with value. So I would do, and I'm trying to get back into doing some more regular live calls just in the free group, but I have a bunch in the archives. We do different training topics there too, not as in depth as inside the Creative Copy Club, but still helping people in that way. So that the other thing that's really important to me is that if you want to join the membership, I want to make sure you vibe with my style, you understand the way that I talk and the things that are important to me. So, because I'm not necessarily going to be the perfect copywriter for everyone. So I think that's a really key piece of starting out and doing that connection work is making sure you're attracting the right people who actually are going to want to work with you, who are going to vibe with you that way. So really setting those foundations, the email list and the Facebook group is how I was able to nurture so many people. And then when I had an offer, the people who already knew that they liked what I was doing, they wanted to work with me, jumped right in. And then the people who are in the group, who aren't in the membership, see what I do. They see what I do for free, and then oftentimes end up jumping into the membership after they've been in the group for a little while.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned finding the right copywriter for you, that you're not the copywriter for, just everybody. What should people be looking for when they're trying to figure out the right person to help them with their copy?
Yes, that is a great question. I think it's so important. It's easy to slip into feeling like, like, oh, I just need to find somebody, but it's so important to find the right person. And the way you do that is really to just know what your own brand principles are and what you need. So for example, I write in a very casual style. It's very conversational. I use like expressions and jargon sometimes, like just to connect with people. I say, hey, instead of dear so-and-so, things like that. So I have a very conversational copy. So that would not be the best fit for somebody who needs something very serious, very academic, that kind of writing. Now, could I write that way? Yes, of course. But that's not really what my style is and what I'm known for. So what I encourage people to do when they're looking for somebody is to kind of know ahead of time what you're looking for as far as tone and style goes. And then look at different copywriters, look at their websites, look at if they have free Facebook groups, look around in there and see if their style resonates with you. The other thing that I do think is important when you're looking for a copywriter is to make sure that the copywriter has experience in the area that you need. So it's just, there's so much that goes into copywriting besides writing, which is a whole nother topic, but research and understanding is so important. Your copywriter can do such a better job if their area of expertise is in your field versus something way out in left field. So for example, even though my niche right now is not healthcare, I have such a strong healthcare background, I could easily jump into somebody who's in the health and wellness space and be able to write copy for them without having to learn everything first. And I think that's really important is how much, because it's a two-way street, especially in the beginning. You have to give the copywriter a lot of information for them to write the copy. And so knowing that somebody is familiar, at least with your topic, is very important. And then the other thing I would say is getting on a call with them. Now, I'm not somebody that's like, oh, you have to do like all these in-depth discovery calls all the time, but getting on a call with someone or watching them on video, listening to them on a podcast will also help you to understand if they are the right kind of copywriter for you. Again, their tone, their style, their vibe, all of that kind of thing.
Yeah. Who are the people that you work with the most?
Yeah. So right now I work with primarily online course creators and coaches. So I really love working with people who have memberships. So I don't have as much of a specific niche as far as like healthcare, real estate, things like that. But it's more of the kind of online coaching space. And I think it makes sense because I like helping people. So I really like helping people who like helping people.
Yeah.
I get along really well with those kind of people. Our values align and it's really fun. And it's fun for me to learn in that capacity. I get to learn different niches, but it's still all kind of connected. Like the principles of getting someone to join a membership is the same as everything else, as selling a course, as selling a digital product. Connect with them and then convert. That's pretty much the basics.
Hey, wedding photographers and event planners. Say goodbye to time chaos with Timeline Pro. Our app turns your workflow into a breeze, letting you create and customize stunning wedding day timelines in minutes. Share them with clients and vendors for instant feedback, all within the app. No more endless emails and coordinating headaches. With our easy-to-use templates, shotlist tracker, and sunset timings, your planning becomes as joyful as the events you're crafting. Dive into a stress-free planning experience and make every wedding a masterpiece. Download Timeline Pro now and transform the way you plan weddings and events. For more, visit timelineproapp.com. For someone that's struggling with that idea that sales have to be aggressive to be effective, what are some advice you give them to help them shift that perspective?
Yeah. So my big thing, we've covered this before, but this is a little bit more in depth, is helping people with your products. And so I always encourage people, if you genuinely believe that the thing you have is going to help somebody, all you have to do is talk about it and show them how helpful it is. Now, if you're not sure, if you're like, oh, this checklist, I don't know if it's that helpful, but this is what I'm going to give out for my free thing, then my advice is to go back, refine it, add to it until it is something that you genuinely feel like you would hand somebody to help them. Like if someone came up to you in real life and was like, oh, I'm struggling with time management, and you have a guide that you made for time management. If you'd be like, this is what I do, it is so helpful. Think about anything. When someone asks your advice on something that you really believe in and you know about, you could go on and on. You here, take this thing and do this, and I've done that, and you just you get really excited and passionate, and you can just easily talk to them. That's what we need to do. So every product, every service, every freebie should really align with that. And like I said, if it's not helpful enough, then go back and add to it until it is. And then the other thing that I really think is helpful is to practice selling the free stuff. So this helps kind of change that perspective of like selling, feeling bad, feeling sleazy or icky, is when you try to sell your free stuff. And what I mean by that is instead of, hey, subscribe to my newsletter or download my checklist, those kind of things are about you as the person who's trying to get people, get in front of people. But flipping that to be about your person and showcasing how your freebie is helpful, showing how your freebie is going to change their lives, is going to help with this transformation, is helping you get used to talking in that way, making it about your audience. It's not about you. They don't care about how big your email list is. They care about how you can help them. And so I really encourage people to practice selling their freebie so that they get comfortable with that. And it takes out the piece of feeling, oh, like I'm asking for money. I feel weird or conflicted or gross or whatever. If you're practicing selling something that's free, it takes that piece out of the equation entirely. And it's a really good way to get comfortable talking to people.
That's such a great principle and concept. So let's do a little like on the spot practice with that. So I know you have a freebie you mentioned earlier. We're going to link it to you guys. So give us an example of how you would sell that freebie that you have to an audience, for example, on social media.
Yeah. So for starters, I have on my opt-in page more than just, hey, click here to download this or whatever. I'm actually going to pull it up so I can look at it while we go through, because I've spent a lot of time on the landing page doing the things that I would then pull from. I pull from this landing page to make my social media posts and things like that, because the main thing I did is make sure that I'm showcasing how helpful it is. So my very first thing I have on here is worried about sounding too salesy, you're in the right place. And I'm immediately drawing people in and connecting with them. I know what you're struggling with. You're in the right place. I'm about to help you with that. And then another thing that I always kind of say with this is I don't believe in high pressure, sleazy sales tactics. And when you download this free guide, I'm going to show you that selling doesn't have to feel sleazy. It doesn't have to feel icky. And then they're going to say like, oh my gosh, how? I'm like, well, just download the free guide and you'll find out. And it's not like in a gatekeeping kind of way either, because really the whole point of a freebie is we're exchanging value. So I'm giving you this free guide and you're giving me your email address, which is super valuable to me. So it is kind of a fair exchange. And that's why it is kind of selling something too, because that's what we're doing. Because ultimately we're going to then email them and send them marketing messages and things like that. So I really talk a lot about when I'm trying to sell this freebie of, building trust with your audience. And if you want to learn how to sell something and not feel bad about it, then this is going to show you step by step. And the other cool thing that I do explain too is my freebie is not just a checklist. So I could have easily been like, here's the framework, good luck, go apply it. But my freebie, I actually walk through each principle, and I have lines where people can, if people still write on paper, I don't know, you can put it on your iPad and write on that too. But, you can really think about these principles and dig deeper into it, because I want people to truly understand, because I feel like once you get it, it just becomes more natural and it becomes just part of your everyday language. But it's really hard in the beginning especially when you've been taught sales tactics that don't feel good, that aren't aligned. It can be really hard to break out of that. So I focus on that kind of thing. And it depends what kind of room I'm in. So if I'm talking to direct sellers, I'm going to talk about this in a way that's kind of showcasing that. I always try to spin things in a positive light. So I don't want to bash on an industry or anything like that, but I know what the struggles are now in that industry. So if I'm presenting this, I'll say, if you don't want to feel like you have to keep going for no's, learn how to do this framework, and it's going to transform the way that you talk to people.
Good. Thank you for doing that on the spot with me. I appreciate you.
Of course. I'm kind of used to doing things on the fly with these copy reviews, so I'm okay with that.
No warning at all. Thank you for doing that.
That's fine.
So you did some training, and I don't know in what phase in your career, but you did like a copy school training at some point. Tell me a little bit more about what you learned, and is there something that you still consistently apply in your work today?
Yes. So when I found out that copywriting was a thing, so I'd been in the online space for a while and I'd heard of it, but I didn't really know what it was. So I am very analytical. I like to know things, I like to understand things. So as soon as I found out what it was, I researched what the best program was to learn about it. And that's when I found Copy School by Copy Hackers. And I dove in at the very beginning of when I was like, well, if I'm going to be a copywriter, I need to know all the things. Like, I'm not a very big, like, we'll figure it out as we go along. Like, I need to see the big picture and make sure it's a good fit. So I actually it's an online training program, kind of self-guided. And the funny part about it is I did all this. The thing that I learned the most is that research is almost more important than writing. And I did all this training, I learned this stuff, and I actually stepped away because I was like, ooh, I want to write. Like, that sounds boring. I don't want to do research. Like, that's, I'm out of the medical field. I'm done with that. I'm just going to write. So I took a break. So I did all this training. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be a copywriter. And then I was like, ooh, research, I'm out. So then I just did regular freelance writing. And then I kept feeling that pull, like drawing back. I'm like, okay, I'll give it another chance. I'll give it a look. And honestly, now that once I decided I was like, I'm just going to go for it. I'll do a few client projects, following their principles, doing this research that takes way longer than writing. I guess I'll try it. And it truly does make a difference, because it's so much easier to write the right words when you understand who you're writing for and why you're writing to them. So where I originally, and I totally admit it, I thought it was really boring at first because I didn't understand how that was going to help. But once you do all that research, you understand how your customers talk and what expressions they use, how they describe their pain points. So my favorite example is everyone's always trying to sell stuff to overwhelmed moms. Like, have you ever met a mom that's not overwhelmed? Because I haven't. Like, we're all overwhelmed. So we're just always like, are you overwhelmed? Yeah, of course, they're overwhelmed. They're a mom. They have a million things going on. So I always like to, when I do the research, you get to see the things that people are talking about. And so they're like, they describe a scenario of being overwhelmed. So it's like, have you ever just finished cleaning off the kitchen floor only to turn around and your toddler dumps a box of Cheerios on the floor? Like, yeah, that's overwhelming. And we can all picture that. But your target audience, if that's who you're talking to, they're going to relate to that so much deeper than just like, yeah, overwhelmed. Yes, we all are. They're going to be like, yeah, darn, I just spent all this time and now I have to redo it again. This is so frustrating. And that's another way you're going to connect with them. But that scenario didn't just come out of my head. So it's actually a lot harder to do writing without research because you have to think of all this stuff. Whereas when you do the research and you find out what people are saying, you're like, oh yeah, I can use this, I can use this, I can use this. And then your copy just comes together. So I know the original question was, what did I learn? The main thing I learned from them is research. And then I do have to give credit where it's due. So I've now specialized mostly in launch copy. And I learned about that from Danny Page. She's a copywriter who teaches copywriters about sales and launch strategy. And so that was like unlocking a whole nother world to me when I was like, wait a minute, I can just specialize in this, like the one thing that's super fun that I talk about all the time. And so that really kind of took off. So copy school gave me the foundation, taught me the rules, the jargon, all that kind of stuff. And then doing it's called sales page prep school with Danny. That's what I did to really get that set of skills honed in.
Yeah, those are great principles that I can see how you continue to use them. Even as you evolve as a copywriter, they should be some very good, sustainable like baselines for you and like foundational things for you to continue to use in your work.
Yes,
So
definitely.
you're very passionate about debunking that myth that selling is inherently pushy. Can you share a success story where your approach kind of changed a client's perspective and their sales result?
Yeah. So one thing that comes to mind right away is my friend Yolandi Dugmore. So she owns featheredvine.com. She is a very techie analytical person. So she builds WordPress websites and all that kind of thing. And she had been following the traditional, this is how you do a launch and this is how you sell stuff. And some of those like get their pain points and grind it in and all that. And she just wasn't feeling good about it. She wasn't feeling aligned about it. So she asked me to kind of take a look at things. And so I said, she was kind of on the fence of if what I'm talking about this whole time actually works. And not because she doesn't trust me. It's just when you hear this different message all the time and someone comes in and flips it around, it's natural to kind of question it. So I asked her, I was like, can I just write one email for you? Like just one. Like you could do the rest of your launch however you want to. I just want to show you how we can do it differently. So I wrote one email for her, and that email had her highest click-through rate and converted the most sales out of any email in her current launch and any email in the launch that she had before. I don't have the percentages in front of me. I was trying to find that before we hopped on, but that was like a mind-blowing moment for her and also really affirming for me, obviously. That I was like, just give me my one chance, put me in, coach. And so that was just really cool because then when I did that, I showed it to her and then we talked about it and I showed her and explained like why each piece of the email was there. It wasn't just random words that I put together. And then after that, she's felt a lot more confident in her future launches, writing her own copy. So I haven't written any more emails for her. And she's gone on to have more successful launches because now she saw what I did. I put it into practice for her and then gave her the confidence to then use those principles and do it herself. And it's always like we say, like, do one, what is it? Do one, see one, teach one or something. I forgot how it goes. But that was kind of the thing is once she had been taught that and she saw somebody else do it, she just felt like she could then take the ball and run with it and has been doing that ever since.
Yeah, that's where that understanding versus just copying comes from,
Yes.
right? So if
Yes.
you really understand the principles that go into building that, then you can continue to reproduce it. Versus if you just copy and paste something and you don't know why you're putting it in there, you can't do it again once you get outside of that context.
Yes,
So
and that's the thing, even with the template. So I am obviously team template. Like I hate starting anything with a blank screen because I think it's just so much harder to overcome that initial, like, where do I start? But in order to take a template and then make something that's going to actually serve your business and serve your audience, you have to know why you're doing things. You have to know why the blanks are there. Or sometimes I put in parentheses like, insert, I don't think I say like insert pain point here, but something like that. And you got to understand why that's there so that you can do the right thing to then make it all come together.
So, as somebody who manages a lot and handles a lot and juggles a lot, so you have your own business to grow and continue to evolve. You have your clients that you have to work for and help them grow, and then you're a mom and a wife. You have 3 young children. How do you juggle all of that? Do you have any advice out there for the CEOs that are kind of in the same situation that you are?
Yes, I do. And the one thing that I am so passionate about is that you can build your business and grow it at any stage. So, one thing that I heard a lot of, especially because I started this when my oldest was 2.5, I think, is people were saying, like, you're home, enjoy the time, build a business later, wait till your kids are older. And like I've told you before, this is a huge piece of my identity. I love to do things. I love to connect with people. I love to work, and that looks different in different capacities. But I just share that to show you I've actually done everything I've done while having, at least at one point, there's always been a 2-year-old for starters. And I find that to be like the craziest age. I started when my oldest was 2, now my youngest is 2. Like, I've been through newborns, I've been through potty train, like all the things, and I've grown the business. So it's not easy. And I think the biggest thing that helped me is to manage my own expectations. So I had to let go of the idea that I could sit at my computer and just work for 2 hours and like no one would bother me and it would be so blissful. Like, that's never going to happen. And so before, when I would expect that to happen, I would get so frustrated. I would get interrupted. I would snap at the kids. I'd be so like, I just want to finish this. And I finally sat down and was like, look, this is never going to happen. It's crazy to me that I'm expecting for this to happen. So I changed my expectations. And the biggest thing that helped me was making a list of the things that I wanted to get done, either in a day, in a week, whatever. And then anytime I found a little pocket of time where like the kids were playing, or honestly, if they're watching a show or something like that, I would never sit down to the computer and be like, what should I do now? I have this time and I don't know. Do I have 15 minutes? Do I have an hour? I don't know. And then you like waste your time trying to figure out what to do. So I just work from a list and I say, okay, this is the first thing on the list. I'm going to do as much as I can. I get interrupted. I always write where I'm leaving off, because that's the worst, is when I get back to it being like, oh no, where was I? And then having to like overcome that inertia to get started again. So I just use the list whenever especially when they were younger, I would do that. And then whenever I got time, just work on what was next and then kind of keep going from there. So the other thing is, I have to say, using screen time strategically has been really helpful for me. So I was away from family. I had nobody that I could drop my kids off to. I had nobody to ask for help. When my husband was gone, he was gone. It was just me and the kids, and I didn't have a community, nothing. And so I think a lot of the mom guilt that we get is like, oh, don't let your kids be on screens too much. They're going to turn into zombies and all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? If I need a break, I'm going to need to use a screen. Like, I have nobody, I have no other option. And so what I did though, is I would use screen time strategically. So for example, right now my husband's home. So this isn't happening right now, but if I needed to be on a Zoom call, that's when I actually need quiet and people to not come in. So before the Zoom call, we play, we go for a walk, we like do mom kids stuff to kind of fill their cup. And then I'd be like, okay, great. Now I'm going to go on this call. You guys get to watch a show. And I don't feel guilty about it because I planned it. I think it's when you don't plan it and it's just like a desperate, graspy decision is when you get that guilty feeling. But I let my kids watch screens and I don't feel bad about it. They're not turning into zombies. They're doing just fine. And I really want to bring that up to give other people permission to do the same, because there's just so much stigma around it. And sometimes you're just in that position and that's just what you got to do. And it's okay.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. I think it's great to help people understand that there's, and then there's no right or way to do it. We're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
might ended up in, 20, 30 years down the road. It might be that the kids that watch more stuff are maybe better at their jobs than the ones that did. Who knows? We don't know. We're just trying to do our best. So at the end of the day, is, trying to make mindful decisions with some kind of intent behind them and just do the best you can. So
Yes, totally.
I love that. Let's talk a little bit about any big goals or aspirations for your career in your membership in the next few years?
Yeah. So the membership, I'm just really excited for it to keep growing and thriving. It's been so great to see. So it's only just turned one just last month. So it's not a membership that's been out there forever, but to see that it's been growing and evolving, I really want to keep that momentum going. So I'm definitely keeping that around and trying to kind of get this message out to as many entrepreneurs as I can. And then from the client one-on-one copywriting standpoint, I do hope to have more of an agency style at some point where I hire junior copywriters and I can train them a little bit and then they can work with me. So like it's not just me because right now, I'm the limiting person. Like I can't take 10 clients a month because it's just me. So I would really love to see the business grow where I have other copywriters that work with me and we can help even more people to get their authentic, genuine messages out into the world.
Very good. I'm excited to see all that. So, my last question for you, it's another curveball I'm going to throw you to. The last one, I promise. And it's not an easy one to answer. Maybe you have the answer for it on the top of your mind, and or maybe you might take a second or two to answer. But how do you specifically, Andrea Fry, define success
Ooh, I think for me, like how I feel successful or just how I define
for
success in
you?
general. Okay.
For you. Mhm.
So honestly, I do have an answer because I think that success is having a business that actually makes money, that feels aligned, and that doesn't make me feel like I'm deciding between working and being with my kids. So I feel like there's this elusive like work-life balance out there that everyone's like always trying to grasp at. I don't really think that exists. I don't think you're ever going to balance the two. So for me, success is finding a way to integrate both things into my life in a way that feels balanced. And or I guess I don't even like the word balance. I don't know. In harmony, it's
Harmony,
harmonious.
yes, yes.
Yeah. And that's how I feel like. So in the beginning, especially when you're building something new, there's not a great balance. Like I put in a ton of elbow grease at the start, and I'm not saying I do nothing now. I'm not just like sit it back and relax, but once you get past that initial building phase and you're on to like growing and scaling, it is a lot easier to put parameters around. I remember as a brand new business owner, I felt like every single second I needed to be working and networking and talking to people and that honestly is how you burn out doing that all the time. So for me, I think success is being able to keep the wheels running in the business, being able to spend the time with my kids. And honestly, I love being able to take my daughter to school. My oldest is in kindergarten now. I can take her to school. I can be there for pickup. I volunteer for stuff during the day. And I just schedule my meetings, my client work, all that around it. And right now, I actually feel like it's been going really well. Like my kids, like everyone's kind of on board. I figured out how they don't feel like I'm ignoring them if I have to work. I've just really been filling their bucket first, even if it's 10, 15 minutes, and then doing what I need to do. And it's just been going great. So I really hope that I can continue on that path forward.
Very good. So, Andrea, tell everybody where they can find you if they want to work with you, join the membership, and just learn more from you.
Yeah, so my website is andreafry.co, so .co, and that is where you can find everything. Fry, by the way, is spelled with an E. It's Frey. So, and I've got that. You can, from that page, you can find out how to join the membership. That's also just andreafry.co/membership. And my free guide is andreafry.co/connect. And I just want to leave you with one other little thing. We didn't specifically get into this, but I get asked this question all the time. So I just want to address it if that's okay. And that is kind of how we grow in our writing and connecting and all this in the age of AI. Now, I could do a whole other podcast on this, but we won't get into it. But I just want to say that all of the things that I've talked about today are the key to how you and your business are going to continue to be successful in the age of AI. Because people who are just going to use copy and pasted ChatGPT output for their sales page, yes, they did their sales page in 30 minutes. Woohoo, congratulations. But it's not going to be connecting with their audience in the same way as it is when you go in and you infuse your personality, you infuse that research and all of those aspects. So I'm not saying I'm against AI. I'm pro AI, used the right way and used strategically, but I'm also advocating that we always view everything we write in the lens of helping people. And when you do that and you go back, and even if you're just editing AI output, you put that personality in, that's what's going to make you stand out from all the robots on the internet.
Yes, standing out from the robots. Always a good plan.
Yes.
Andrew, we might bring you back to do another episode and just focus on that because I love talking about that as well. But I wanted to focus more on the part that I think, again, it makes you different than, everybody else and the robots, which is connecting with your client. And I know you did a really good job with that. So thank you so much for spending the time with us today. I know you guys had lots of amazing feedback and tips and strategies from Andrea today. Andrea, thank you. And I hope to see all of you next week for another episode of the Accidental CEO podcast.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nada Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.